Well, stories are tremendously important for us because I think it's a fundamental way that people relate to one another. You just see the prevalence of stories, whether you read newspaper stories or you watch documentaries or the news on television. It's very much set in a storytelling way. And I think people find it easier to connect to stories than they might to arguments or to intellectual treatises on things. So storytelling is, I think, the most common and probably the oldest way that we have of communicating to one another. Well, one of the big jobs any organization has, of course, is to deal with the substance of its work, and that work is always often very difficult or complex. And so they spend time dealing with the substance of the work, constructing the arguments in favor of their work and their point of view. And very often that's what they end up with in terms of their communication as well, rather than taking that as the raw material and then creating the stories that will make it easier for other people to understand that. They rely on just relating the process they've been through, creating data, creating information from that data, but not thinking perhaps enough about how you take that raw material and create stories that connect more easily to people. I think when an organization tells a story well, what they can do is, through telling that story, begin to relate to the unfolding story of the listener, because everybody in their life has their own story that unfolds every day as they live their way through it, their own narrative that proceeds, and the organization's story might intersect with that story and find some common ground that they can both happily exist on. And I think it deepens then the listener's understanding of the organization's story. One of the things many organizations have been concerned about in recent years is what they call knowledge management. And through the work we all do in our organizations, we build up a tremendous amount of knowledge, but very often we don't use that very much. We might use it a little bit in our own work to be smarter about what we do next time, but we don't share it all that often with other organizations, and the lessons we've learned we don't pass on. And I think storytelling is a way to begin to mine that experience, mine that knowledge that we have locked up in our organizations, and begin to share it with other people in a way that's accessible and useful to other people. So I think that's a very important sort of hidden benefit of storytelling.